Welcome to the Columbus Area United Way Connecting Community podcast. This is where we interview local nonprofit leaders and explore how we can collaborate to have a thriving community. Well, hello, I'm Hope Freshour with Columbus Area United Way Connecting Community podcast. And today we have Jan Berry with the Platte County Food Pantry. So Jan, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
We are excited for you to be here. I know that the work that the food pantry provides is critical to our community. So can you speak to us a little bit about the services that the Platte County Food Pantry provides and what it does?
Okay, we do provide food to people who are in need, and it has been surprising. I've been there just over 2 years now, and of course I came in right when COVID was, and it was busy, and I thought once COVID got over with that things would slow down and be what you would maybe think of normal, but it is not. We serve a lot of people. Like yesterday morning or yesterday afternoon, we had 9 families in for a total of 55 people in the family.
Oh.
And so we were very, very busy getting stuff. We provide them with the basics, canned vegetables, canned fruit, spaghetti, that type of stuff.
Mhm.
And then sometimes we have other things that have been donated that we can add in extra, like cookies, cake mixes, and things like that. We also have quite a large supply of the meat, the frozen meat, so we give them some of that. And it just depends on the family size, how much they do get. They're allowed to come once every 3 months for a total of 5 times. So that's a year and a half. And hopefully after a year and a half, they have gotten over their emergency situation and can make it on their own.
And speaking about the food and how much is provided, I think, my eyes were made more aware in regards to how much actually is provided. You speak a little bit about that, but you really have a system in place based on kind of how many people are in the family and how much they get to receive at that time. But you also kind of keep track of the amount of kind of food that goes out for that impact. And can you speak to what you have seen witnessed through COVID and currently now with inflation and how more food is actually needed in our community and where people are actually finding themselves in elements of where there's more food need and food accessibility as a need.
I think there is. That our inflation has gone up quite a bit, and it affects everybody from the people who come in needing help to the ones who are donating with their own grocery bills are so high they have trouble donating as much. And we see that our donations are down drastically this year. For instance, last year we averaged right at 4,000 pounds a month of things donated from individuals, and this year it's been averaging less than 1,000. So we have had to go to the grocery store and purchase a lot of items, which adds up, and it's hard to keep up. We do pre-sack the stuff for the families, so everybody's getting basically the same thing, but the larger the family, the more items they get, the more sacks of groceries go out. So say a single person probably gets around $100 to $125 worth of groceries, whereas a family of 4 or 5 is going to get more like $250 to $300 worth. It's not, they come in every 3 months. It's not enough to last them that 3 months. It's just enough to kind of help them out through the hard spots.
And so can you talk a little bit about maybe what misconceptions be about the Platte County Food Pantry and people that might be accessing those services?
Yeah, sometimes, it is for people who are in need, that have an emergency situation, and it can affect everybody. You or I might be doing fine, and then we have an illness or, our car breaks down, we have to buy a new car, something like that. And so we're sitting in a position where today we need extra. And so they can come in and get extra for that one time. But if you can afford to get it on your own, we're not just a grocery store where you can come every 3 months and stock up your cupboards. It is for those who need it.
I think that's one of the elements that I feel is important to share with community members is that from my lens and my perspective of the work that we do with Columbus Area United Way and the partnership we have with the food pantry is that in any emergent kind of need that oftentimes people think, well, those individuals or families aren't working, and that's often not the case. It's often, like you just said, something has happened. Life has happened. An
Hmm.
illness has happened. Something has been thrown in their way as a curveball, and they're sitting there trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to have trouble paying rent and keeping food on the table. So when you have the ability to have some sort of access to food accessibility through the food pantry, that makes that hardship a little more manageable during that time.
That's correct. And there's a lot of people who come in and say, I'm almost embarrassed to be here,
Mhm.
but they should not be. It happens to all of us. There are times when we need extra help.
Mhm.
So that's why we're there.
And I love that because I think it's critical because like you said, it could happen to you, it could happen to it could happen to anyone who
Hmm.
thinks like I'm sitting in this, good position, I have a good job, etc. But we don't know necessarily all the times what life might swing us. And it's important that we have those things in our community that people can access when they're needing it. And it shouldn't be something that someone is ashamed. It's an aspect of being able to just be able to provide stability to a family.
Right,
And the aspect of, oh my goodness, okay, so you said 9 families yesterday, 55 individuals were served within those 9 families.
right.
I mean, so as we go into the holiday season and as we go into winter and different things like that, what are some needs that the food
Okay.
pantry has specifically for those that might be listening, that from this time period into kind of even the new year, what does that look like, that if someone wanted to provide a donation, what does that mean and what would be most beneficial?
Okay. It's kind of twofold. A lot of people like to donate the food. They like to go do the shopping and bring it in. And this time of year, we always use things like mac and cheese and spaghetti and whatever. But we want our families to be able to provide a traditional meal too. So things like cranberry sauce and pie fillings and potatoes and gravy, not the real potatoes because they don't last for us, but some instant potatoes, things
Mhm.
like that would help. But also, it's it's equally as nice if somebody just wants to make a monetary donation, then we know where the gaps are and we can go to the store and fill in what we need.
Mhm. So, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of serving and working at the food pantry?
There are so many times when people walk out the door and they're so appreciative and they say, "Oh, thank you," and the kids won't be hungry tonight, and we just don't know what we would do without you. So just
Mhm.
being able to help those people out and know that the especially the young kids are not going to go without a supper.
Yeah. And what are the most challenging? You might have just spoken to that, but what are the most challenging aspects with what you do and the service you provide at the food pantry?
Okay, we do have a lot of individuals who do not speak English. So, of course, that is always a challenge for us. But also, they're new to the area. They need everything, and we can't give them enough food to fill all their needs. They're going to
Mhm.
have to come up with some supplies from other place. So that's always a challenge. Um, just you hate to say, that's all I can give you, but sometimes that's the case. That's all we can give out because
Mhm.
we have so many people come in.
And and that's the aspect. That's the one thing that I think with our community is the collaboration with the network. I mean, I know that you often refer them to other entities within the community that they can maybe be able to gain access to other services. Knowing that you can give this much because you also have to have all those things in
Right.
place for everyone else that is coming in, but collaborating and allowing them to know, well, you could go here, or you could go here, or you could go here to
Yes.
receive some of those elements. Um, so, what is you've been doing this? I know you came in right during challenging times, right?
Yes. Yep.
COVID
Yep.
and prior the flood, and then they had COVID, and now we have inflation. So, what are you looking forward to in this next year, and
Oh my.
and with what the food pantry might be providing?
Oh, that's a tough one. You said there wouldn't be any tough ones. I guess I just hope that the people who are coming with all the jobs that are out there, that maybe more people can find gainful employment, and maybe the numbers will go down. I just we want to be able to help everybody, but if the trend continues, unless we have some windfall somewhere, we're probably going to have to cut back.
Mhm.
So I just want it to stabilize.
Mhm. And that's a great message. I mean, right now, when we're recording this podcast, we're in the heart of the Columbus Area United Way campaign, and it's important for our community to realize that the Platte County Food Pantry is a partner agency, and so if you want to give to the United Way, you can designate those dollars to ensure that those dollars go to the Platte County Food Pantry, and your donation will get there to support what is needed. I think from my lens of what we are seeing in the community of what a major need is an increased need of food security. I think last statistic that I read about or heard about, but in our local community here, is that essentially about 74%, don't quote me, but it's around that percent, is living paycheck to paycheck. So how quick could life happen and just cycle someone, a family, an individual, off onto a course where now they're insecure and they're needing a food security reliability source because of a major medical bill, a car accident, whatever that might
Mhm.
be. So,
And not only that, the food supply at the grocery stores, sometimes they cannot get in some of the things that we need and normally give to people.
mm,
So if we can't get it, that means it's not on the shelf for others to get either. And so that becomes a challenge. We, try to substitute something somewhat equal, but food supply could get worse before it gets better too.
yeah, that's a great point. The food supply chain
Mhm.
is still in ramification from COVID, right?
Yes.
And we don't know when that might end or get better. So that's a great point that you make. So is there? I always ask these questions because we know outside of Platte County Food Pantry, you serve in nonprofits, but there's many things that make you individual and unique. And I always love to hear from people about, okay, if you had your go-to karaoke song, what would that be? Or what is your favorite book that you've read or a book you are reading right now?
Oh my gosh. Um, You know what? My sister and I talked about this the other day, and I don't read a lot of full books anymore, but when I was a little girl, I read all the Walter Farley books, and they were all about the black stallion. And so I tend to
Mhm.
trick to go towards books and things to watch about animals.
Animals.
Yeah.
And for those that I know Jan a little more than probably our audience, but she is a advocate for animals and has a heart for animals. So how many dogs do you have?
6.
6 dogs. Any cats?
There's 7.
7. And do you have horses on
I
your
do. I
property?
just bought a new
Okay.
pony, and I think I'm gonna get another one in a week or 2. So,
Okay.
yes.
So you could also talk to Jan about anything
Yeah,
animal related.
that's
But
true.
the one thing I do want people to know is if they wanted to volunteer or serve at the pantry, how would they go about doing that?
All you have to do is call me down there at the food pantry, and I'd set up a time for you to come in. Mostly, like we had a new gal just this morning, and she called and she goes, I told you I'd like to volunteer, and you said Fridays." I said, "Okay, be down there about 10," and I got her started. So we could always use people, whether it's sacking groceries
Mhm.
or picking up deliveries or helping on the computer. Just because we do interview people and put in it's basic information in there, but
Mhm.
there's always something to do.
Perfect. And also, can you educate us in regards to the hours and operations of the
Sure.
Platte County Food Pantry?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're there from 10 to 11:30. Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 4. And then we do occasionally have something going on outside of that, like next Thursday, the Columbus Middle School is doing a food drive, and so we will need extra people to help pick that stuff up and bring it back to the food pantry. So those things are sporadic, but
Mhm.
we do need help for those type of things too.
Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. Well, Jan, it's always a pleasure to see you, and thank you for all the work that you provide
Oh,
to our community.
you're welcome. Thanks.